So good day everyone. Today we are going to discuss the tribe people of Mindanao. So first, what is Mindanao? So Mindanao is the southern Philippines, principally comprises the island of Mindanao and the Sulu archipelago. The region is a majestic tapestry of both natural and cultural abundance, unifying the thread of its ethnically diverse people across the geographic boundaries. So it is the second largest island group next to Luzon. So Mindanao has been dubbed the country's land of promise because of its promising natural resources. So we all know that Mindanao is known as the land of promise in the Philippines. Although some people believe that being in Mindanao is dangerous because of the violence, bombings, and kidnappings perpetrated by the bandits. However, we are unaware that Mindanao is the home to a large and diverse population, a large group of people who live in a place where peace and harmony are valued above all else. So, who are the tribe people of Mindanao? So we have the Moro, Lumad, and last is the Christian settlers.
The traditions among tribe people. Maupya na mauto kaninyong tanan. Kahishis gataan ay huntaa bahinta lumad. Lumad is a generic term for non-Muslim and non-Christian tribal groups or cultural communities in Mindanao are also very diverse. Moreover, there is some overlap, such as the Highland Christianized Maranao. These ethnic groups make up approximately 5% of the total Mindanao population according to the 1990 census. Lumad is a Cebuano term meaning native or indigenous. The term Lumad is the ascribed collective name, and this tribe are a group of Austronesian indigenous people and originated in the southern Philippines. And they are about 14 to 17 million indigenous people here in the Philippines. The communities of Lumadnon are mostly settling in an upland mountainous area where they are depicted as mountain dwellers. So it is a general term for people who live in the hills or in the mountains. Traditionally, Lumadnon are Sweden cultivators who also depend on fishing, hunting, and trade of the forest products as well as locally manufactured items that will be discussed later on. Now, let's encounter their materials cultures. First is the local pottery. It is the consumption and distribution of domestic items like cooking pots and local status goods, such as elaborately decorated earthenware. This is required in the ritual, and mortuary rites were facilitated by more informal or localized interaction between different groups of lumads, as well as their trading partners. This is one of their hanap buhay. They sell different creative handmade products to sustain their needs. The second one is basketry. Baskets have been common in most Lumad households. This is made in different shapes and sizes. These were used for various purposes when gathering food items, forest products and harvest, cutting meat and animals have been caught, and keeping personal and household items.
Ang common materials nga ilang ginagamit paghimo sa baskets are ratan, abaka, nito, tikog, buri, kawayan, pandan, daon sa lubi, ugog, and there's many more.
Third one is the tinalak, the sacred art of weaving. Tinalak is the traditional Tibuli cloth, particularly referring to woven abaka. These textiles with the indigenous three colors ikat designs. The item means black, the holo means red, and the bukay means the color white. Today, it is more often worn during special occasions and events outside their communities. The Tibuli is part of 18 Lumad ethno-linguistic here in Mindanao. Mao ni ang traditional weaving clothes sa mga Tibuli diri sa South Cotabato. Tinala cloth is gikan sa mga abaka fibers. Ang mga babae nga weavers kay ginatawag nila as dream weavers because the pattern of the tinala cloth are inspired by their dreams. The next one is the metal smithing. The Lumadnon are often characterized by their extensive collection of highly prized brass, silver ornaments, and black weapons. Among the Lumadnon, the Bagubo and Tibuli have distinctive metalwork traditions and deeply embedded in their society. Various Lumad groups are highly skilled in metalsmithing. It is a process of creating kitchenwares, tablewares, jewelries, and weapons used of various metal tools. The next one is hunting and trapping games. Hunting is part of their traditional subsistence system in most Lumad communities. The hunters are usually male. They are expert in different kinds of tools used in gaming and keeping hunting dogs trained to help locate and capture game. Panganop ang tawag sa mga hunting games in Manubo.
Instruments. Music is part of most ceremonial rituals and social gatherings of Lumad groups. The indigenous musical instruments of southern Philippines are composed of percussions, strings, and wind instruments that made up of brass, wood, and bamboo.
Left side, it is called kodchapi. The right side, the tangkol. There are other musical instruments, the limbang, anmigel, bukol kiluting, limnek and limnoy, and sludoy.
Beetle chewing. It is significant among the Bukidnon Manubo as a form of their medication. Mama is usually kept for personal consumption, shared as gesture of friendship or hospitality with visiting guests, who may be acquaintance or a stranger, or it is used as a part of the ceremonial offering. This is part of their tradition and their belief is kung magmama sila, magpapaligon gid daw ni sa ilang mga ngipon.
This says, tattoos complete their womanhood and it symbolizes strength. They believe that one's tattoo serve as a guiding light in the afterlife. In Manubo's belief, kung wala na sila tattoo, kuhaon na sila sa higanti. Their tattoo is nagpamatuod nga sila lumad. Traditional clothing. It was commonly made from fabrics of woven abaca decorated with elaborate and indicated designs. The visual fest of colors, textures, and patterns convey the combination of their own and adaptive belief and practices. They have their own unique costume that makes them distinctive from other tribes in the Philippines. This costume reflects their way of life, cultures, personalities, religious practices, and rituals. The 18 Lumad ethno-linguistic groups, namely the Ata, Bagubo, Banwaon, Bilaan, Bukidnon, Dibabawon, Higaonon, Mamanwa, Mandaya, Manguwangan, Manubo, Mansaka, Subanon, Tagakaulo, Tasaday, Tibuli, Tiduray, and Ubo. Now, let's talk about the one of the ethno-linguistic groups in Mindanao, the Manubo. The name came from Matsuba, from man means a person or a people, and Suba meaning river people. The first Manubo settlers lived in the northern Mindanao. At the present Manubo tribes can be found at the hillside and the river valleys of the northeastern part of Cotabato. They said to be good agriculturists. The Manubo are very hardworking people. They plant some root crops like balanghoy, kamote, mani, and there's many more. Ang ilan ning dalon sa probinsya kay Baligya, pananglitan kanang ini magtabo bitaw. And also they plant vegetables for consumption. The famous are primary weavers, while the males are farmers. Example, ang laki nasa uma, ang babae sa usahay magtabang sa ila. Kay ang role pud sa mga lalaki sa mga Manubo kay magprotect sa iyang family. And mostly in children pud sa mga Manubo. Kay magtrabaho na sa uma or magtahi na cause that is their tradition. The male is allowed to marry multiple of wives. In Manubo, duway ang tawag sa ila. They also have their own martial art called iskapi. They also incline to music. One of their most known used in musical instruments is kudyapi. Ang kudyapi has two string. Mura siya guitar kung gamiton. Pero kaning kudyapi is smaller than compared to guitar. The Manobo are several people groups who inhabit the islands of Mindanao in the Philippines. They speak one of the languages belonging to the Manubo language family. Their origins can be traced back to the early Malay peoples who came from surrounding islands of the Southeast Asia. The Manubo tribes cut tattoos complete their womanhood, and it symbolizes strength.
Manubo. Manubo have two levels of ceremonial recognition for the choosing tumaay or dato, called dalugnat or pagtuboy, and the pamiliskat. According to Simrano 2005, the respective communities and neighboring villages attend both ceremonies. It is also where he receives the instructions on his responsibilities, including uploading the oral customary laws and considering the welfare of the people at all times. Marriage is said to be traditionally imposed by parental arrangement. The asking of marriage or ginsa to the girl begins when the two families choose their dato or bai. The girl's representative then offers a rikanat or betel chew to the boy's representative. But they said that the boy's representative still politely refuses it until the negotiations for the bride wealth kagan begins. In this kagan, the groom's relatives, most especially to the dato who is related to the groom's family, will contribute. Ang wedding ceremonies in Manubo kay lahi sa uban or sa tuwang ceremony. Ang pamamalakad sa mga Manubo sa ilang kasal kay kanang kasunduan bitaw sa parents. Ang ilang way sa Manubo dapat na kasunduan. Example kung ang pamilya sa babae or the bride's-to-be's family then asked for the bride wealth, which is could be paid with money, land, animals, or precious stones sa lalaki. Until sa makumpleto sa lalaki, ay na din sila ikasal. So I have an example. I have a cousin na naka-associate pure nga native. Gyud. Dapat tuman niya kung sa ang gipangayo sa papa sa bahay kay kung dili na possibility nga pat yung gitawag nila nga sala or salaon pat yun ang pamilya sa lalaki. Dili siya matawag nga mali kay mo man ilang patakaran daan kung pure good nga native. And it still required sa ilang custom of marriage. And whenever there is negotiation for marriage, both the bride and the grooms must use the local dato to make all their arrangement. So how they socialized with each other? What their social life? So the social life Manubo is patriarchal, which is male dominated. The head of the family is the husband. So patriarchal is men hold the primary power. Example, a patriarchy is when the family name comes from the man in the family, the dominance of men in social or cultural system. So, in polygamy, having more than one wife at a time, it is common and is allowed according to a man's wealth. However, among the Bukidnon, most marriages are monogamous. The only exception is that of the powerful datus or the headman. The elders in groom's family decide whether a bride is acceptable. A proposal is then sent to the paternal uncle for the marriage. The bride's-to-be's family then asks for the bride wealth, which could be paid with money, land, animals, and precious stones. There are 9 clusters in Manubo tribe, including the Cotabato Manubo, Tagabawa Manubo, Agusan Manubo, Tibabawan Manubo, Matigsalog Manubo, Sarangani Manubo, Manubo of Western Bukidnon, Manubo of Tawag Occidental, and the Ubo Manubo. What is the history of Manubo tribes? According to Elkins 1977, Manubo belongs to the original stock of Proto-Philippines or Proto-Austronesian people who came from South China thousands of years ago. He later coined the term Manubo to designate the stock of Aboriginal non-Negritoid people of Mindanao. What makes Manubo different from other tribes? So Manubo community is mostly male-dominated. The Manubo are both strong in mind and spirit. Their cultural identity is firmly rooted in the land and its nature. So when it comes to their belief, the religious beliefs of Manubo revolve around the concept of many unseen spirits interfering in the lives of humans. They believe that these spirits can intrude on human activities to accomplish their desires. The spirits are also believed to have human characteristics. What makes Manubo unique? The Manubo are both strong in mind and spirit. Their cultural identity is firmly rooted in the land and its nature. It is maintained through storytelling, language, family, and the passing on of traditional skills and arts. Costume of Manubo. The men wear long strips of hand movement loin cloth called wings. The women wear a kind of wraparound skirt called lufid. The Wagubo are proud people with Proto-Malayan features. So when it comes to their livelihood, the livelihood of Manubo, they are mostly into making bags, sandals, tissue holders, headbands, money, and jewelry boxes, customized boxes, and several household needs made of pottery lilies. They are also into making beds and other handicraft. Daghan sa mga Manubo mga talented gyud. They sell a lots of handmade products para ibaligya sa mga turista sa mutna sa Kamulan. Kamulan celebrates the customs and traditions of 7 tribal groups that originally inhabited the Bukidnon region, namely the Bukidnon, Higaonon, Talaandig, Manubo, Matigsalog, Tiguanon, and Umyamnon. Kamulan promotes cultural preservation and recognition for each tribe. Republic Act 8371. The Indigenous People Right Act of 1197, approved on October 29, 1997, implemented to recognize, protect, and promote the right of indigenous people. The right shall also know and to give needs and desires of indigenous people such as education, health, and other services.
Taro sa Muslim. Sa Muslim, napagkatri people of Mindanao.
What is Muslims? So the Muslims are the people who follow or practice Islam. Islam is an Abrahamic monotheistic religion, which means they only worship one God, and that is the God of Abraham. The word Muslim derives from Arabic and it means submitter. Muslims consider the Quran, their holy book, to be the verbatim word of God as revealed to the Islamic prophet and messenger Muhammad. So in their religion, they believe that Jesus was one of God's most important prophets, but he was not the Son of God. And Jesus was not divine and was not a member of the Trinity. Rather, Muslims believe Jesus' creation was similar to Adam's creation, or also known as Adam. Islam pervaded over the entire country until the colonizers subjugated the country and spread Christianity over the gamut of the Philippines. So that means that the Islam religion was the oldest monotheistic religion here in the Philippines until the colonizers spread Christianity. So it was said that the Muslim Filipinos have never been captured by any colonizers and never altered their religion due to their strong resistance against other beliefs. So the Muslim Filipinos stay strong because of their strong resistance against other beliefs. So in this generation, Muslim Filipinos presently live in the southern portion of the Philippines. They compose the region called Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, which is comprised of 5 provinces where the majority of the population are Muslims. So the majority of the Muslims are found or located in the province of Maguindanao, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Basilan, and Lanao del Sur. Muslims, or as they call themselves the Moro or Bangsamoro or Moro Nation, are made up of 13 ethno-linguistic groups, including the Iranon, Hamamapon, Kalawani, Mulbog, Alagan, Kalibugan, Maguindanao, Maranao, Sama, Sanggil, Tausug, Bajau, and Yakan. Among the 13 ethno-linguistic group of Muslims, we have here the Maranao. So, what is the Maranao? The Maranaos live in the provinces of Lanao del Sur, Lanao del Norte, and Marawi City. They are known as the people of the lake. Why? Because they live around the lake called Lake Lanao, which is hailed as one of the ancient lakes in the world and the deepest and second largest lake in the Philippines. So the Maranaos are presumed to be the last tribe who embraced Islam as their religion. So what are their social structure? There are three main distinct social classes, namely, first is the upper class called Malay Ibangsa. These are the sultans, wealthy datus, and their relatives. They belong to the royal blood, so to speak of. Second is the lower class called Mabubay Bangsa or Matagtao. This belongs the farmers, small farmers, and the artisans. Third is the slave class called Bisaya. These are the servants and laborers of the upper class.
The relationship of political and religious institutions. Political power and religion are closely bound to each other among the Maranaos, and for that matter, to all other groups of Muslim Filipinos. The Sultan, the Imam, and the Datus, and the rest of the traditional socio-political organization seem to be the most important governmental institution, rather than the one established by the Philippines government. If the mayor is not in the confidence or liking of the Sultan, he practically is powerless in the community and cannot institute any development project. Religion. The Maranaos are all Muslim and their Bible is the Quran. The religion is far more important in their daily living than elsewhere in the Philippines. Marriage. Marriage for men. Marriage is an expensive affair and therefore is heavy burden. All classes of people, although among the poor, the price of the bride is proportionately low. Among the upper classes, the bridge prince, which may be called a dowry, around 2,000 pesos plus some carabaos. Polygamy. Polygamy is one of the traditions of Maranao that is still practiced up unto this day, especially for Maranao's males. Polygamy is when a person marries more than one wife or husband. During ancestral times, Maranao leaders, those who have royal blood, are usually the people who used to adopt polygamy. The second one is the parental marriage. Parental marriage is the parents will be the ones to adjudicate who will marry their son or daughter. The parents of both sides will have an agreement how much dowry will be given by the parents of groom side to the parents of the bride side. Kandialaga. Kandialaga means wherein there will be 1 week celebration before the official kakawing or the wedding ceremony. This is practiced probably because they want to retain the pride of their family, especially when the family came from a royal or a big family. Artwork. Most of the artwork of the Maranaos are designed with ochre. Ochre is the flowing and geometric design used by the Maranaos to beautify their artwork. Pamadyang, hawang or dugyot po. Turugan and their cultural attires were some of Maranao artwork that have an ochre-inspired design. Turugan is an accent house of the Maranaos where the Sultan or Dato live. Mamadyang is a long stripe of cloth attached around the corner of the house. Maranaos are very particular in designing their artwork. Their landap and malong, which are tube-like clothes or skirt, are also designed with ochre. Traditional clothing of Muslim. The woman Muslim Maranao wears malong and hijab. Malong is a large warp around tubular garment measuring at least 165 times 165 cm. It can be worn by women as a dress. Hijab is the name of the head scarf worn by Muslim women. They came in a variety of style and colors. In words, most women wear the hijab to cover their heads and necks. where their face will be visible. For men, or are the jalabiya-based kopi, turban, and sirwal. Jalabiya means is a traditional Islamic garment that resemble a white robe and doesn't extend past their ankles. Presidential Decree Number 1083, Code of Muslim Personal Laws of the Philippines, a decree to ordain and promulgate a code recognizing the system of Filipino Muslim laws and providing for its administration for other purposes.
Christians. So what are Christians? Christians are people who adhere Christianity. Christians also comprise an indigenous group in Mindanao. Almost 200,000 Visayan-speaking peoples of northern and eastern Mindanao were converted to Christianity during the Spanish colonial period. This includes some peoples of Butuan, Davao, Camiguin Island, Cagayan de Oro, Misamis Oriental, Iligan, Ozamis, Dapitan, Dipolog, and the Chabacano of Zamboanga City, among others. These people have now integrated into the larger Christian population of Mindanao, but dialect differences, especially among Chabacanos, remain apparent. The Chabacanos were originally natives of Ternate in the Moluccan Islands of eastern Indonesia and were Christian. They were brought to Zamboanga and Manila in the mid-1800s or earlier to serve as soldiers.
Christian settlers, inhabitants of Mindanao today are or are descended from comprise 70% of the Christian Filipino population in Mindanao, owing to the inability to distinguish those who have immigrated and those who have a longer history of residence in Mindanao. The 70% figure simply lumps them all together. So, medyo dako-dako gid siya, no? Kay 70% ka Christian Filipino ang kuan ang nagpuyo sa kuan sa Mindanao. Sa 70% apil na diha ang mga kuan, mga nag-immigrated nga mga people, and kanang apil na diri pod sa 70% ang mga dugay na nga mga residents sa Mindanao, and down to the concept of Christian Filipinos. Pan-Christianity, one bread, one body, and one soul. These concepts are comparable community concepts, as in the Christian concept, bajo de campana or under the bell, and Islam's bajo de hamasid or under the mosque. While this still leaves the equally diverse Lumad beliefs in the middle, they too have concepts of belonging to one community that intersect with those of Muslim and Christian Filipinos. So kani nga mga concept kay comparable gid siya. Kay kani ang Christian concept kay ang bajo de campana or what they call under the bell. So kaning kuan ang kaning mga beliefs sa mga Christian is katong before magkuan sugod ang simba is katong ilang ireng ang bell. And sa kaning sa Islam, bajo de masjid or under the mosque mo sa tong kan ilang praising place ang ilang mosque. And napoy lahi nga concept ang sa kuan sa mga lumads. Sa ilang nga belief kay kuan, ilang belief kay ga intersect sa Muslim and sa mga Christian Filipinos.
The current status of peace efforts in Mindanao. So these are the current statuses of the peace efforts in Mindanao. Actors: the Philippine state, civil society, ordinary citizens, foreign observers, foreign states, embassies, organizations such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or the ASEAN, the European Union or EU, as well as the United States and Australia, have a vested interest in solving the problems in Mindanao. They contend and understand that peace can only be attained if there is social and economic justice. Poverty and rebellion are closely intertwined. The Access Philippine program confirmed that ordinary citizens, students, the youth, community, organizers, and other elements of civil society have a concrete and major role to play in the piece-by-piece resolution of the conflict in Mindanao. Instead of merely thinking big, individuals who espouse Christianity, Islam, and other indigenous faith systems can build peace one person at a time by starting with themselves and spreading the goodwill to their families, friends, communities, schools, places of worship, and society at large. The Organization of Islamic Conference, or the OIC, supports the Mindanao peace process, wherein Malaysia plays a prominent role. President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo attended the Asia-Europe meeting, or the ASEM, on October 7 to 9, 2004 in Hanoi, Vietnam. She thanked Southeast Asian and European leaders for their support of the peace process with the MILF. The MILF has a wide popular backing in the countryside, where poverty and underdevelopment have promoted rebellion.
Government of the Republic of the Philippines, or the GRP negotiators, and 12,000-strong Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, agreed to create the International Monitoring Team, or IMT, when Malaysia hosted their meeting from February 19 to 20, 2004 in Kuala Lumpur. The talks between the GRP and the MILF started in January 1997. Soon after, the GRP signed the final peace agreement with the Moro National Liberation Front. President Joseph Estrada ordered an all-out war against the MILF headquarters in Camp Abubakar in Matunog town of Maguindanao, and Arroyo ordered the Philippine Army to assault known MILF flyers in Pikit town of North Cotabato. Scholar Abhud Syed M. Linga of 2004, Executive Director of the Institute of Bangsamoro Studies, argues that peace negotiations between the GRP and the MILF will not be enough to establish a sustainable peace. He states that a new formula is needed that ensures the participation of Bangsamoro people themselves in deciding the direction of their future political relationship with the national government. He proposes that the referendum be held that offers the Bangsamoro peoples a choice of political status between expanded autonomy, a federal relationship, or independence. He notes the need for the deployment of third-party peacekeeping forces to prevent further hostilities. Another scholar, Morgan of 2003, raises some serious cautionary notes about how such a referendum could be assistance in resolving the conflict, given the multitude of stakeholders, issues, and actors involved in the conflict. Mindanao is now home to a majority Christian population, while many Lumad hold 9 ancestral land claims throughout the island. She argues that each group in Mindanao would to have a serious role in the referendum process in order to assure fair representation and ultimate support for the outcome. In her view, civil society is the place for this kind of dialogue to begin, rather than with a referendum, and Christians, Moros, and Lumad need to negotiate and decide how best to create an interdependent, not independent resolution to the conflict.
On what basis could a common set of understandings support such a dialogue? Dr. Nagazora Madeo in 1999 suggested that a search for a unifying ideology of identity might begin with the very notion of nationhood, or bangsa or bansa. Maranao, also known as people of the lake, believe they are all descended from one common lineage, Salsila, and call this concept Maripida Saposid. This means that each one is a part of a long umbilical cord. So the belief that every Maranao is a part of this one common lineage can be traced to two sources. So first, we have the mythical folk hero, Radia Indarapatra, and the second is the Islamic source, Sharif Kabongsuan. Their children intermarried and came to the Lano Lake region and converted the Maranao to Islam. Islam also brought with it a much broader concept of universal brotherhood, the Ummah, or the Islamic community that transcends geographical borders, races, ethnic identities. This concept, all Muslims are brothers and sisters and can be envisioned as one body. If any part of the body suffers pain, the whole body feels it. Is the autonomous region of the Muslim Mindanao. So it was a political gesture on the part of the national government to create a resemblance to the sultanate system that would still be anchored on the Philippine constitution and sovereignty. While very imperfect, it nevertheless was designed to provide political accommodation without total devolution of power. So, can the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao serve the purpose of building a new sense of nationalism and national identity among the Bangsamoro? So, the Islamic institutions and concepts, especially in education, that are being initiated to accommodate the Moro desire for national integration into the larger national political scenes without losing their ethnic religious identity as Muslims. The ideology and framework of the ARMM is not devoid of the Western concept of the separation of church and state, and many Moros recognize that it is one way for the national government to address their century-old dream of self-governance. The institutionalization of the ERMM was based on the majority Christian concept of popular democracy and the concept of the separation of the church and state. The finance, taxation, national security, foreign affairs, the exploration of natural resources within the region, and the yearly budget allocation are still under the full control of the national government. So, Information Management Technology or IMT. It's monitored the implementation of the GRP MILF ceasefire agreements. Representatives from Malaysia, Brunei, Libya, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Japan compose the IMT. So the IMT will set up its head office in Cotabato City and satellite offices in the sites of Zamboanga, Iligan, Davao, and General Santos. The Cuban, Argentinian, Brazilian, Chilean, and Venezuelan ambassadors to the Philippines collectively praised the GRP and MILF efforts to work for the peace in the southern Philippines. So if an effective and presumably sustainable peace agreement is signed, the United States, Australia, and some members of the European Union will provide assistance to Mindanao. All actors concord that the economy and politics are equally important issues and directly connected. They go hand in hand and one is not more important than the other. If poverty is alleviated and the life of the people is improved, crime and revolution will subside. If there is relative order and stability, the economy will flourish. So the political relationship between the MILF and its breakaway functions, civilian stakeholders, and the national government today remain an arena of intense speculation, negotiation, and diverse opinions. So is peace elusive in Mindanao? Pessimists claim that peace is nowhere in sight. Optimists argue that peace comes piecemeal, one person and one activity at a time. So Access Philippines project is dedicated to this latter goal and to creating a new generation of empowered youth leaders from all faiths and ethnic groups in the southern Philippines who desire to make a sustained peace a reality. So it is all about respect, appreciation, tolerance, and national reconciliation depend on a broader understanding of the conflict and history of the people of Mindanao, and this project is one step in that direction. So that's all of our report. Thank you and God bless. Keep safe, everyone. Shalom!